Salve Omnibus. This is the second part of my series criticizing modern classical liberals. The previous episode served as an introduction and a demonstration of what I see as the hypocrisy shown by classical liberals towards religion. In this part, I will be examining the idea that classical liberals have, by rejecting the Christian principles and moral foundation of our society, have helped create the very forces of identity politics that they now oppose. Imagine society is like a riverbed, and the water represents human behavior. Now let's say that upstream is a reservoir representing the id, to use the Freudian term, representing the natural tendencies humans have and how they act when unrestrained. Now let's say the reservoir is contained by a dam which represents moral systems used to restrain that behavior which we deem immoral. To use a specific example, human males have a tendency towards polygamy and women towards hypergamy. If there are no restraints on sexuality, this produces first, a dysgenic society as fewer men will end up breeding with most of the women. Secondly, this produces a society where most children don't know who their fathers are and will be raised to single mothers. Sound familiar? Virtually every study has shown this to have a decidedly negative effect on the child's development. And third, this produces a harem culture, a society where women are deemed to have inherently less value, considering a man can have as many wives as he can acquire through his status. This is the patriarchy the feminists are describing. So what do moral systems do? Well, with Christianity, which imposes strict rules on sexuality, it forces monogamy on society, condemns adultery, emphasizes the importance of a nuclear family, and holds equal expectations for men and women when it comes to sex. This solves the three main issues illustrated above. It ensures most men will be able to get married, providing a healthier gene pool. It forces men to take an active role in their children's lives. And it gives men and women equal value when it comes to relationships by forcing them to have equal value in marriage. This is just one example of how moral systems restrain and shape human behavior into what we can call moral or better for society. The two main problems for classical liberals is that 1. If morality is subjective, then the purpose of these moral restraints is meaningless, as good and evil don't really exist. And 2, if the ideology emphasizes individual liberty above everything else, then this means an opposition to these restraints. However, most classical liberals will agree when you tell them that family structures are better for society, but they'll never ever want to implement the ideas that would actually secure this. And for the past several decades, the classical liberals, along with the progressives, have chipped away at this dam, believing the individual's right to do whatever they want is way more important than having a stable, functioning society. And effectively, when gay marriage was legalized, this was the last bit of the dam left to symbolically remove. Of course, now we can see the classical liberals are confused and upset as to why everything around them seems to have flooded. Complaining about Salon.com, defending pedophiles, punishing individuals who refuse to use the ever-growing list of gender pronouns, children as young as 4 identifying as transgender. I mean, what did you think was going to happen when this all became relative? So how do the progressives and Islamists fit into this? Well, both ideologies offer solutions to the liberal society which is currently failing. Getting rid of the common Christian/Western identity, you help foster black and white identity politics, and by accepting sexual libertinism, the feminists have come along with a handy list of solutions to the problems that arose with it. And Islam does the same thing by offering an easy solution to the social problems of modern societies. Likewise, both ideologies reject individual liberty. So criticizing them as being illiberal is meaningless to them. It's the same as critiquing me for being a Christian. Now, on a further note with Islam and multiculturalism is the fact that Muslims aren't going to integrate into Western societies because those societies don't offer them anything better. Sure, you can argue about the things that are wrong with Islam, but you need to actually provide a better alternative, and secularism is precisely the opposite. It's nothing. And by supporting sexual liberation, you've allowed mass immigration in the first place because it's caused the birth rates to become unsustainable. So thanks for that as well. The bigger problem is that liberalism doesn't stand for anything. Freedom and individualism are only assertions you can make that you can't do something. Liberals don't actually posit alternatives to the problems they point out. With Christianity, you can say we do the same thing with restraints on behavior, but we offer practical and sustainable alternatives. You can't be polygamous and have sex with whoever you want, but you can form a lifelong partnership and emphasize the family unit and love instead. But with liberalism, if you assert we can't have a Christian society, what can we have? Well, since you haven't offered any alternatives because you can't, people are looking for those who can and will. So my assertion is that if you ultimately want a society which upholds individuals' rights as important, then you need to have a moral foundation to assert why it's important and allows for that. And that's what the two pillars of Western civilization, the Greco-Roman philosophy and Judeo-Christian spirituality, have done. So I think to conclude, I'd like any liberals watching to consider this question. At what point do the needs of society supersede the freedom of the individual? Diabana.
Wir wollen unseren alten Kaiser Wilhelm wieder haben. Wir wollen unseren alten Kaiser Wilhelm wieder haben. Aber den mit dem Bart, mit dem langen Bart. Aber den mit dem Bart, mit dem langen Bart. So schwärmten unsere Eltern von der guten alten Zeit. Sie liegt so fern und weit, die alte Kaiserzeit. Doch war sie wirklich besser, diese gute alte Zeit, als einst der Opa, die Oma hat wohl gefeit. Ja, mit Jagdgesang und mit Hörnerklang, rings um Fair Berlin, durch die Wälder ziehen. Ja, mit Jagdgesang und mit Hörnerklang, ritt die Oma mit dem Opa. Doch sie hielten an und küssten sich, sonst wären wir